don't know, when you're on the radio.
No,
I
you're
surprise you, random acts of kindness.
No, this
You
is
sure?
more of a technical issue than physical.
The
But
same
thanks.
kind of thing as me. When I get mine properly
Yeah, but
fixed.
I've got one of these Hive systems,
What?
installed. It's like the thermostat.
Hive?
And you can control it from out of the home and stuff like that.
Too much tech.
Aye, that's what I'm saying. Yeah.
Yeah.
All
Simple.
right. So you'll leave that one, I think.
No, don't you worry. Me and AI will sort it out for you.
You and ChatGPT you use, is it?
It is.
Okay.
Well, a wee mix of everything. There's a few good ones out there,
ChatGPT, Gemini.
There's a few other.
Well, like what?
Oh, Jesus, what are they now? There's a top 5. I can't
Do you
mind.
use them all?
No, well, ChatGPT basically.
Yeah.
I do that, but there's other ones for specific stuff. But I haven't just got the time to dive into it.
Oh no, I know there's other ones. I was just wondering. which
Yeah,
ones
but
you
I think
use.
we all have to embrace it, and there was it's in the news that a lot of young people are embracing it, and older people too,
course,
like
yeah.
me. So
Everyone's using it.
yeah, sure.
All right, listen, Gooch, thanks.
Good
Look
luck.
after yourself.
All
See you
right,
tomorrow,
stay
which is
warm.
Wednesday. Okay, it is. You know what? We're lucky it's not that cold in here at all. Right, it is just turning 9:01. Let's get a news update. It's over to Donald Kavanagh.
Thank you, Greg. Good morning. The Donaghoney Road in Omagh remains closed this morning after a man died in a collision with a lorry in what police and the Health and Safety Executive were treating as a work accident yesterday morning. The Northern Ireland Ambulance Service confirmed a hazardous area response team crew was dispatched to the incident. Detectives are asking anyone with information to come forward. A Foyle MLA has told the Stormont Assembly that a changing global economic order means that now more than ever it would make sense for the UK to rejoin the EU. Sinead McLaughlin believes that the domestic and international uncertainties created by the Trump regime have led to international investors looking beyond the US, and it's in this context that the island of Ireland, she says, has a lot to offer in terms of stability and growth. However, Ms McLaughlin stressed that this will only happen if Stormont and London are prepared to take the initiative.
A rebalancing of the global economy presents a real opportunity for Ireland North and South. A world where capital and innovation are more evenly distributed, in one where smaller regions can actually thrive, but only if we are prepared to seize the moment. The British Government must move with urgency to rebuild closer alliances with Europe. Leaving the European Union was a major misstep, but it is a decision that can be reversed.
St Vincent de Paul is backing calls for the government to support families in receipt of HAP who may face rent increases this year. Focus Ireland says it wants to see a report on the implications of rent changes for over 50,000 tenants on HAP published in the next few months. St Vincent de Paul is echoing that call as over 5,000 children still remain without a permanent home in Ireland. 56 dependent children were registered as homeless in the northwest, according to latest figures published at the weekend. The head of social justice and the policy with SVP, Louise Bettis, says barriers to getting these children housed need to be removed.
No landlord is allowed to refuse somebody on HAP. However, there are ways around it where they look for work references or, there's delays in it. So, at the moment to try to seek new accommodation, if you've got a notice of termination, it's actually more difficult than trying to go for a job interview. People will talk about the Hunger Games approach to just going to get a viewing in a property.
A bust of former US Senator George Mitchell will be removed from the grounds of Queen's University in Belfast, seen as one of the architects of the Good Friday Agreement. Mr Mitchell was honoured by the university in 2023. However, his name was mentioned in the latest Epstein files detailing links with the disgraced paedophile. Queen's will cut ties with the 92-year-old as a result. Freelance journalist Amanda Ferguson has been outlining Mitchell's response.
A spokesman for George Mitchell said that he never met, spoke or had any contact with Virginia Giuffre or any underage women, and that he profoundly regretted ever having known Jeffrey Epstein and condemns without reservation the horrific harm that Jeffrey Epstein inflicted on so many women.
Meanwhile, Peter Mandelson could face a criminal investigation after police in Britain revealed they're looking into claims of alleged misconduct in public office following the release of more Epstein files. It's claimed the 72-year-old former senior member of the British Labour Party leaked sensitive information to the late paedophile while he was a cabinet minister in Gordon Brown's government. And the weather forecast, cloudy with scattered outbreaks of rain and drizzle. Top temperatures 3 to 6 degrees Celsius today. Moderate to fresh easterly winds easing as the day goes on. And that's Highland Radio News. We're back with news again at 10 o'clock. In the interim, check all the day's news on highlandradio.com. But for now, from the news team, good morning.
Homeowners know what trouble sounds like. Uh-oh. That's why they're covered by Ireland's soundest home insurance provider, SuperValue Insurance.
OK, well, thanks for calling us, Claire. Sure, we've all been there. I'm an air fryer man these days. Once tried to air fry a turnip. Wasn't bad, actually.
Get a quote from SuperValue Home Insurance to get 15% off online. And we'll even throw in €40 in vouchers. T's and C's apply. Vouchers include two €20 or €40 spend. Home contents only, policies excluded. This home insurance is underwritten by AXA Insurance DAC. SuperValue Financial Services DAC trading as SuperValue Insurance is regulated by the Central Bank of Ireland.
The talk of the Northwest. The Greg Hughes Show on Highland Radio.
Hello and a very good morning. 5 minutes past 9 on this Tuesday, the 3rd of February 2026. How are you all keeping? I do hope you're very well indeed. It's great to have you on board for the next couple of hours here on the show. And don't forget, we want your views and your news as well. 086 60 25,000. That is the WhatsApp and text number. 086 60 25,000. Or give us a call on 074 91 25,000. And if you prefer, emails come into us at comments@highlandradio.com. Lots coming up after 10 o'clock. We've got Community Garda information, that and so much more besides. Rightio, let's start with a look at what's making the headlines in some of the newspapers. You heard Donald Kavanagh reference this here just at the top of the hour. Queen's University Belfast has cut ties with a former US senator who played a central role in brokering the Belfast Agreement over his links to the late sex offender Jeffrey Epstein. Yesterday, the university confirmed it had taken the decision to remove the name of George J. Mitchell from a flagship research centre called the Institute of Global Peace, Security and Justice. A commemorative bust of Mitchell, 92, is also to be removed from the university campus. The decision follows the emergence of new information contained in the Epstein files released on Friday, which included references to Senator Mitchell, the university said. Now, those files were released and they're not without consequence. If any of you seen any of the images, some of the images that have been released, I'm not talking about Peter Mandelson in his underpants, or, I mean, that's horrific enough in and of itself, but very seriously, Epstein in the company of young people. And I won't go any further than that because I know it's early and there could be some young ears listening, but just in the presence of young people. And thankfully, in Britain and some European countries and elsewhere, those that have been found not necessarily to have done anything wrong, but certainly questionable activity with someone who was a known sex offender and a child abuser, that there are consequences for it. I can't help but look at what's happening in the United States because we're so exposed to it, and nothing. Pure silence, no consequence for anyone at all. The issue of child abuse, which is what this is all about, has become so polarised that people on the left or Republicans are protecting Republicans and people on the right, the Democrats or whichever is left and right, are protecting that. Someone like, say, for instance, Elon Musk, who does come up for mention on this programme, like all programmes, because he's so influential. He has always claimed that he had very little contact with Epstein, and certainly no contact when it was clear that he was a sex offender with an interest in children. As it turns out, he was having regular contact, begging him effectively in these emails that have been released for access to his island. But now he's claiming that autism played a factor, that he didn't understand, that he's got a strange way of communicating, that some of the files are fake. Well, they're not fake. And this is the same guy who said that anyone in the files, should be dealt with as quick as possible. But throughout, in the Donald Trump administration, there are 14, 15 people that are mentioned extensively in these files. And this is all post-knowledge that this man was a convicted child abuser. It really is quite remarkable. And it's all men with money. And I don't care what their politics are. I really couldn't care less what their politics are. But they're protected. And unfortunately, it's regular people that are insulating their fanboys, their heroes, if you know what I mean. But at least there is some sort of accountability, some sort of justice for the victims happening in other parts of the world. But the United States is just a law unto itself now, it would seem. On to the Irish Independent now, and Sinn Féin is standing over comments by its finance spokesperson, Donegal Deputy Pearse Doherty, linking the withdrawal of cost of living payments to Ireland's support of Ukraine, which has drawn sharp criticism. Mr Doherty's comments during a Dáil motion on approving Ireland's participation in the EU's €90 billion loan to the war-torn country has left his party open to charges of blatant populism and being soft on Russia. The EU is hoping to make the first tranche of the loan in April. It will include 60 billion that will support Ukraine in military spending and 30 billion in support of its national budget, including funding for hospitals, schools and electricity infrastructure. The deal was struck last month after EU countries failed to reach agreement on using frozen Russian assets to help Ukraine. Well, Sinn Féin's the only party to have opposed Ireland's participation, which will amount to around 1.3 billion in the Dáil vote last week. During the debate, Mr. Doherty said, well, in fact, let's listen to what he had to say and you can determine, yours is the most important opinion, whether or not he was right or wrong.
At a time when families in Ireland are crippled by the cost of living crisis, and after a budget that gave ordinary workers nothing, this government are proposing that billions of euros are given to Ukraine for weapons of war. I'd rather see that money being invested in public services and cost of living supports across the European Union than in buying weapons of war. €90 billion delivered for Ukraine with the clear intention that the majority of that funding will be used for military purposes. This is about underwriting an enormous escalation in military financing through EU mechanisms in a war for which there is no credible peace process, no diplomatic roadmap and no political horizon beyond further escalation. We are told these loans are going to be repaid through future reparations from Russia, but that is far from guaranteed. This government has made clear its intention to steadily erode Ireland's military neutrality through abandoning the triple lock, through creeping alignment with EU and NATO military structures, and now through the normalisation of EU-level military financing.
Yeah, so that's some of what he had to say. Fianna Fáil MEP Billy Kelleher, who has made frequent visits to Ukraine, said he was disgusted to see Sinn Féin trying to use the situation there as a scapegoat for the halting of cost of living measures in the last budget. What do you think? Do you think it's populism by Sinn Féin, or do you believe that they are speaking for you? Let us know. 08660 25,000, 08660 25,000. And there is an article just in relation to that, not connected to that, because we heard the EU Army being mentioned there. And it's in the Irish Daily Mirror today. European Union Foreign Policy Chief Kaja Kallas has rejected calls for European-wide army. She warned that it could be extremely dangerous as the bloc considers ways to provide its own security after the US warned that its priorities lie elsewhere. Talk of a European army has resurfaced amid tensions within NATO over President Donald Trump's threats to annex Greenland, the semi-autonomous territory of NATO ally Denmark. Those who say that we need a European army, maybe those people haven't really thought this through practically, Kallas said. If you're already part of NATO, then you can't create a separate army. Kallas told a security conference in Norway that the most important military asset during a crisis is the chain of command, who gives orders to whom. So just the reason I'm mentioning that is that the conversation about a European army is not just happening in Ireland, and that was comments there from the European Union Foreign Policy Chief. So that's high up the chain. On to the Irish Daily Mail now, and their page 2 story. The percentage of people who believe anti-Semitism in Ireland is a problem has doubled in less than a decade to over 40% of Irish citizens, the European Commission report found. The survey showed 41% of Irish people now consider anti-Semitism a problem, up from 21% when a similar survey was conducted in 2018. Now, before I read on, I chat to an awful lot of people, and I've sat in this chair or chairs similar to it for over 20 years, and I'll be honest with you, I don't recall in person or on the phone anyone ever being critical of Jews to me, and that is the absolute God's honest truth. Now, I'm saying this in full knowledge that I could be completely naive and that maybe everybody's talking about this and I've just not encountered them, nor do I think about it myself. The closest I would have gotten to that would be people critical of Israel's action in Palestine. A lot of people very upset about that. But I've never heard it framed in an anti-Jew way. I've heard it talked, the conversation has happened in terms of a state and the actions of a state, i.e. Israel. And that's about it, really. Now, am I incredibly naive? Are there 4 out of 10 people out there now being exposed to anti-Semitism, sort of anti-Jew language. As I say, it's just not something I've ever encountered. Even in the conversations about people being very opposed to the genocide of Palestine by the Israelis, it's never come down to whether or not those responsible are Jews or not. And that's just the absolute God's honest truth. But apparently 40% of Irish citizens say there is a problem with anti-Semitism in this country. Now, I could be missing something huge here and could get into bother for that. I'm just being completely honest with you. That's just my experience. Well, the research also found that 70% of respondents believe conflicts in the Middle East have an influence on the way Jewish people are perceived in this country. So, in other words, the way I would look at it, maybe this is naive, but if I lived beside a Jewish person, firstly, how would I know? But if I did, I wouldn't be judging them on the actions of Israel. Again, maybe I'm missing something or I'm out of a loop, but that's just my experience. What has been yours? Do you believe we are an anti-Semitic country? Finally, the Irish Daily Star, just an update on this trial that seems to be taking forever to get underway, but there is a date. The trial of ex-DUP leader Jeffrey Donaldson and his wife Eleanor on charges relating to alleged historical sexual offences is now expected to start in May. Mr Donaldson, 63, has pleaded not guilty to 18 alleged offences. The charges include rape as well as allegations of indecent assault and gross indecency and span 1985 to 2008, involving 2 alleged victims. Mrs Donaldson, 59, of Dromore, County Down, is facing charges of aiding and abetting, which she denies. The trial, which is expected to last 4 weeks, has been delayed due to her medical condition. Right, but it's going ahead now in May. But that is, of course, subject to, of course, changes again happening. Maybe she might become ill again. I don't know. All right, that was a run through of some of the stories. Anything that you wish to talk about, let us know. How do you get in touch?
The Greg Hughes Show on Highland Radio. Text, WhatsApp 086 60 25000. Call 074 91 25000 or email comments at highlandradio.com.
Newspapers are kindly supplied by Cosgrove Centra, Mountaintop Letterkenny. Now with the new look Mountaintop Diner.
If you're feeling unwell, Clinic 45 is now open in Letterkenny, providing expert care with a wide range of medical services, including blood tests, vaccines, minor injuries and prescriptions. Consultations are just €45. Clinic 45 now open Monday to Friday at Fort Lynn House in Fort Retail Park, Letterkenny, opposite the new Duns. No appointment needed. See clinic45.ie.
Are you female, currently unemployed and looking for a new career in construction? Rural Enterprise Skillnet is delighted to announce the next Women in Construction programme commencing on March 2nd in Letterkenny. For more information or to apply, visit ruralenterpriseskillnet.ie. Closing date for applications is February 16th with interviews on February 18th. This Rural Enterprise Skillnet programme is co-funded by the Government of Ireland and the European Union.
There's a smarter way to feel fitter, stronger and more confident. Fit20 Letterkenny offers safe, science-based strength training in just 20 minutes a week. Improve strength, posture, bone density and confidence at any age. Try your first introductory session free. Find us at Fort Lynn House across from the New Dunn stores or online at fit20.ie.
Us pigeons see everything when we're flapping around up here. Well, almost everything. See, burning certain fuels releases invisible toxic pollutants, which can trigger asthma and lead to serious illness. So, if you're going to light a fire in your home, make sure to use low-smoke fuel. Oh, and never wing at burning rubbish.
Choosing low-smoke fuel is better for all of us. Let's clear the air for everyone. And remember to clean chimneys and heating appliances at least once a year. Brought to you by the Government of Ireland.
Highland Radio Time Checks brought to you by EirGrid, the operator and developer of Ireland's electricity grid. EirGrid, powering up communities, powering up Ireland. The time is
It's 19 minutes past 9. Now, there are calls on the Minister for Transport to intervene to protect the Donegal to Dublin afternoon flight amid fears it could be lost under a new contract for the Public Service Obligation Service. A new PSO or a new contract for PSO flights between Donegal Airport and Donegal Airport at Carrickfinn and Dublin Airport is due to commence on the 26th of February 2026. Ailish Docherty is Managing Director of Donegal Airport and is with me now. Good morning to you. Thank you for your time this Tuesday.
Good morning, Greg. Thank you.
Right, so for those who aren't aware, what is the current schedule for Dublin?
At the moment, we have a flight departing from Donegal at 8 in the morning that gets into Dublin at 10 to 9, and we have a flight time then leaving Dublin at 12:55, coming back into Donegal around 1:55, and then a departure to Dublin at 2:30. Then we have a return in the evening. The flight leaves Dublin at 6:50 in the evening, comes back into Donegal, and that aircraft overnights, and that's the critical issue here, that we have had an aircraft overnighting at Donegal Airport for the past 22 years as part of this PSO route, and that is what is intended to be taken away now. That aircraft is going to position back to Dublin every night and then come in to operate a flight from Dublin to Donegal at 6:25 in the morning.
Right, okay. So under the new schedule, just run it through what the new schedule would be then.
Yeah, so the new schedule would see the flight departing initially from Dublin Airport in the morning at 6:25, arriving into Donegal at 7:25, and then departing as normal at 8 o'clock to go to Dublin. And then there'd be an evening flight then, leaving Dublin at 6:50 again in the evening, back into Donegal, and then a flight going back to Dublin at 8:30 at night time, landing back in Dublin at 9:30 p.m. So there'd be no midday rotation. Now, the concern that we have with those flight times is that aircraft is not on the ground in Donegal, so there is no assurance for passengers that there's an aircraft there in the morning. And it'll be impacted by weather issues trying to land into Donegal. It will be delayed getting out of Dublin in the morning due to congestion and, an ATR lining up against the 737 for takeoff, who's going to get the priority there. So we just have serious concerns that will impact actually on our morning departure. That's that vital 8 a.m. flight that goes out.
So the afternoon flight is not as great a concern. I don't want to misinterpret what you're saying.
No, obviously that's a great concern as well. 48% of our passengers currently use that midday rotation. A lot of the passengers coming in and that, we have a lot of tourism passengers and that, people, connecting in from self-connecting, come from the UK, from Europe, from the US as well. So we have a lot of passengers coming in there, particularly during the summer months, who would use that afternoon flight to come in and then go back out again maybe in the morning. But the afternoon flight is also very important. A lot of our passengers are travelling for medical appointments. They would go up on the flight at 8 a.m. They would go to their appointment and they would be able to come back home again on that 12:55 flight. This means now that if they go out at 8 o'clock in the morning, they're not going to get back home again until 8 in the evening. So it's a 12-hour day for people who are travelling for treatment, which is, it's too long a day for them as well. And the assurance, of not having the assurance that they're going to actually get out in time in the morning to make their appointment.
No, because just in case it hasn't been abundantly clear from what you're saying, and it is to me, but just in case, we are then at the whim of whatever might be happening down in Dublin every morning, whether or not that flight gets away, whether it gets away on time, if it lands, when it lands.
Exactly that, yeah. And obviously, if there's an aircraft on the ground, if we have like a foggy morning, if the aircraft's already in, it's able to go out. If you have, fog and suddenly the flight can't land, we're going to definitely have more cancellations and diversions than we would have if we actually had the aircraft in the night before. And it just gives comfort to people, they can check with the airport the night before if they have a flight connection, if they have a medical appointment, if they have a reason that they have to be in Dublin by 10 a.m. in the morning, they can, if the aircraft has come in the night before, they know that flight's going out in the morning. Whereas if they're waiting to see whether the flight can land, a lot of times people aren't going to be able to take the chance on that. They're going to have to travel by road or make alternative, transport arrangements.
Yes, and I'm not saying it is unique, but potentially the flight is because we're so far away from the capital in terms of business, but also because a lot of the medical services that we need, and it's normally quite a dire situation if the truth be told, are a long way away from us.
Yeah, and I mean the purpose of a PSO is to provide a transport option for people that are living in a disadvantaged community. We don't have train service, we don't have motorways. The whole purpose of the PSO is to serve the needs of a community where the transport infrastructure isn't on a par with other areas. And so the needs of the community should be given priority in this. Flight times have to suit the needs of the users of the service. And our passenger numbers have been growing year on year. That afternoon flight has been building passenger numbers, very steadily over the last number of years. And we just feel that we can't see how the flight. You're not going to fill 60 passengers onto an aircraft leaving Dublin at 6:25 in the morning. Or if they are, I'd love to know where they're coming from, because I personally can't see that they'd have the same demand for a service operating at that time in the morning.
So who is proposing this change to the schedule? Is it that the preferred airline wants that aircraft on the ground, say for instance for maintenance or what have you overnight? Like, who is driving the change to this schedule?
Yeah, well, we don't have sight. Obviously, the contract. There's a request for tenders published last August. That is between the Department of Transport and any airline that wishes to bid for the tender. We've been advised back in December that the department had identified a preferred bidder. We never get any sight of what the actual tender is, so we were not made aware of any of this. It kind of only came to our attention about a fortnight ago. So it's obviously the airline has put their tender in based on these flight times.
Yes, but they would have, let's just say it's Emerald Airline, right, and they are continuing to operate the service. Do they have any, I wonder, influence to say, well, we would love to continue it, but based on this schedule? Like, I want to chase this up as you do, Ailish, but with whom? Mm-hmm. Like, who has decided, who's looked at this and said, right, it's better if the flight leaves Dublin empty at 6 odd in the morning and then is kept in Dublin overnight with all the obvious problems that you talked of? Like, who's driving this?
Yeah. Well, I mean, obviously the airline put in a submission based on what they want. There's a procurement team, as far as I understand, within the Department of Transport. So the Department of Transport, I'd imagine, examine tenders when they come in, and they should be examining them on the basis of first of all, do they meet the specification of the tender? And apparently this does meet the specification of the tender. But the second thing that they should be looking at is this, is it good value for money? At the end of the day, it's a contract that was offered in the region of 17 million for 4 years. That was based on the previous tender. So there has to be value for money for that tender as well.
But in my view, there has to be. Because it is a PSO, it should be led by the need and demand of the people it services and why it serves those people, right? So if you've got a situation where you've got cancer patients potentially sitting in the airport not knowing if that flight's going to take off or if they're going to make their appointment, that's not serving the people. That's not a public service obligation, because the public aren't being served by that. It sounds like they've got some sort of a hotshot business person in mind, rather than, I'm not saying those people don't use this flight, but rather than what we need it for, if that makes sense.
Exactly that, yeah, and that's what we want to stress, that it is a service for the community, and it has always got to meet the needs of the community. And for the past 22 years, it has done that by having the aircraft based overnight, and that's what we would like to see to continue, because that's the best service that we feel for the people of the area, and that's what's working for 22 years. So we don't see any need to change it now.
Just in terms of those flying into the region, this is almost secondary, of course. It's possible the 6 a.m. flight, 6 a.m. Proposed flight. It's not 6 a.m. It's a little after, right? But that flight and no afternoon flight. So then there's if you're sort of flying into Dublin and you want to connect to the northwest. It doesn't sound like the evening flight's at a good time for that, and the morning flight certainly isn't. So I just wonder, when people are planning their holidays and looking at access to the northwest, is that potentially a factor as well? Because that afternoon flight feels like it might be more useful for inbound holidaymakers, for an example, or golfers or whatever it might be.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, the 6:25 flight there are a number. There's a couple of transatlantic flights that come in that you would possibly connect with that, but not enough to, to fill an aircraft, not enough to make it worthwhile in our view. Whereas, that 12:55, you're picking up a wide range of flights coming in. People might have to wait a couple of hours to connect, but it's certainly a lot more option for people that are coming from other areas. As you said, golfers, tourism in the summertime, year round. Likewise, that flight going back to Dublin at 8:30 in the evening that lands back in Dublin at 9:30. There are few, if any, flights connecting. In the summertime, you might have some connections, but you wouldn't have very many connections year round that you can go to. You're not going to attend any event in Dublin at 9:30 at night. We fail to see again where the connectivity is in those flight times.
Yeah, and this is also an issue with PSOs because you get paid one way or other, don't you? Whether or not it actually is full or half full or quarter full, I don't know. But finally, is anyone going to use the argument about technical difficulties to me? Because we have covered this in the past, right? Is an airline potentially going to come back to me or a government spokesperson and say, look, flights have been delayed previously because of technical issues, and if the plane's on the ground in Dublin, that won't happen. I'm just trying to think of spin that could be put on this. Am I likely to hear this, and if so, what's the counterpoint?
There's very little historical data to back that up. We've had very few. I mean, I don't have the percentage on the tip of my tongue here, but the amount of times that the aircraft have actually gone tech on the ground in Donegal couldn't possibly be cited.
No. I'm just trying to cover all bases because I might not get access to you when if we happen to get someone on. Okay, thanks very much for that. You've explained it really quite clearly to us, and I have a great understanding now. Thank you.
Thank you, Greg. Bye now.
Bye-bye. Ailish Doherty, Managing Director of Donegal Airport. So, it's not, the fantastic people that are involved in the cancer flights and all that type of stuff. This is an essential piece of transport infrastructure to get us to the care that we need when we need it. It's not perfect, right, but it's far better. And we have it because we are so far removed from the capital. It's terrible. We don't want to have to travel to Dublin for cancer treatment or whatever it might be, but unfortunately we're forced to, and this is how we do it. This new PSO sounds to me like it's suiting an airline rather than the people that they're being paid by the taxpayer to serve. Michael, do you have a view on this? And what is it, please, Michael? Of course you do. Good morning to you.
I do, Greg. Good morning. So the flight currently starts off in Donegal in the morning and goes down to Dublin, and then there's a return flight at 9. The previous PSO to this started the same. The flight went down in the morning, then it turned around and came back up. Then the plane went to Glasgow, turned around and came back to back to Donegal for the afternoon. Then in the afternoon it went down to Dublin, they changed flight crew, and the plane came back up and overnighted. So when it changed the last time, since then there's no morning flight back up, 9-10 o'clock like there had been previously. Yeah. So I go to the UK quite a bit, and occasionally over to the States and to Europe a couple of times a year. So since the PSO changed to what it is now, if a traveller gets back into Dublin at 7, 8, 9 o'clock in the morning, they have to hang around Dublin until the afternoon for a flight back up, whereas previously they didn't. But also going down in the evening, if you were getting an evening flight to somewhere, like going down arriving in Dublin at 9 o'clock at night, like it's useless. And like that, like a flight up from Dublin.
Yeah.
Well, a flight up from Dublin at 6 o'clock in the morning, you'd have to be in the airport at 4:30. It's going to facilitate nobody.
Yeah. Well, it might facilitate the airline. You see, that's the thing.
Well, that's about it. But there'll be very few passengers on the plane.
No, I don't imagine so. But because it's a public services, because it's a PSO flight, I presume they have a guaranteed income, whether that airplane's flying empty or full. Do you know what I mean? They're guaranteed.
I would imagine so. Yes. Yeah. But it's not, like, it's a public service. It's not facilitating the public, and currently it's not either. Like, I would imagine, like the flight. So at the moment the flight goes down in the morning and it comes back up like at 2 o'clock or 1 or 2, like early afternoon, instead of just turning around and coming back up like at 10 or 10:30. So everyone that's going to America from Donegal and is returning back in on a flight between 5 and 9 a.m. has to drive or get the bus. So they currently, when I think I haven't used the airport, and I'm only 35 minutes from Donegal Airport, and just because of the way the flights are, I haven't been able to use it. So, if I go if I go to the north of England now, I drive over the ferry, and it's 4 times the cost. The last return trip I did there a couple of weeks ago was 420, I think, for the ferry alone.
Right. Okay. Not to mention fuel and stuff. Okay, Michael. Listen, thank you very much. Thank you very much for your opinion. I do appreciate it. Any more in relation to that 08660 25,000?
Redcastle Hotel and Spa would like to invite you to their wedding fair on Sunday 15th February from 1pm to 4pm. View our stunning waterfront venue, meet the wedding team, top industry suppliers with breathtaking views, refreshments and more. Avail of great incentives for bookings made on the day. Visit redcastlehotel.com for more information.
There's a French expression, tout compris. It means all included, perfectly expressed in the Peugeot hybrid and electric SUV range, featuring the compact 2008, our best-selling 3008, and award-winning 7-seater 5008, all with a 5-year unlimited mileage warranty. Discover tout compris for yourself at McGinley Motors Peugeot, County Donegal, today.
Welcome to Cherrymore Kitchens and Bedrooms in Donegal Town. Discover affordable luxury with our bespoke fitted furniture solutions. With almost 30 years of serving Ireland and the Northwest, we're your trusted experts. Visit us Monday to Friday 9am until 5pm and on Saturdays from 9am until 3:30pm. Book your free consultation today on 074 9725822 or visit cherrymore.ie. Cherrymore Kitchens and Bedrooms, where affordability and luxury combine.
From home and car to farm, commercial and public liability, at Hickey Clark and Langan, they've got you covered for insurance. They shop around all the leading insurers to make sure you get a great deal. If you're looking for a competitive quote, it's easier than you think. Call 91-26688 or call into the office at Ballymacool, Letterkenny. Hickey Clark and Langan, the local name you can trust, is regulated by the Central Bank of Ireland.
Discover Centra Simple Savers, your go-to for great everyday value. Like O'Donnell's Crisps Sharing Bag selected range €2 each. Selected Pepsi Club and 7-Up 12-can pack €6 each plus deposit. And selected Ben & Jerry's ice cream $4.50 each. Enjoy simple prices on all your favourites. Centra. Live every day.
Right, as it stands at Donegal Airport, there is a flight that departs in the morning from 7:55am. That plane is situated at Donegal Airport. It overnights there. There is also an afternoon flight as well, but under changes that are being proposed now, the plane would be based in Dublin and fly up, presumably empty, to arrive in Donegal Airport and then depart. And then, of course, the afternoon flight would be gone, and people feel the evening flight then is too late. And you know, that's going to be inconvenient for some people in terms of going to a football match or going to work or a business meeting or what have you. But a very important function of that flight is our access to medical care, life-saving medical care. And I don't think there's going to be a better person with an insight into this than Mary Coyle, who's founder of Donegal Cancer Flights and Services. And as soon as I heard this story, Mary, I wanted your take on it, right? Because you're not going to spin it one way or other. You're going to give us the reality for the people that you work with. So what is your initial reaction, Mary, to these proposed changes?
Well, you know, Greg, I just couldn't believe it. I just couldn't believe that... first of all, that there was no consultation whatsoever, absolutely none. We have over 500 patients that travel up and down to Dublin for cancer diagnosis or treatment, and we have children with long-term and life-limiting illnesses, and this is not practical. This is not practical for people going to Dublin. We have done so much work with St. Vincent's, St. Luke's, St. James's, and the oncology departments, the Irish Cancer Society, in order that patients going to Dublin would get early morning appointments so as that they could try and manage the lunchtime flight home. This is not practical at all because we're depending now on a flight leaving Dublin empty, absolutely empty. Who wants to come to Donegal at 6:30 in the morning? Nobody, absolutely nobody. I'm so angry, Greg, because this is more about the airline than the people that are using it. And that's not what a PSO is about. So I just can't believe that this is something that seems to be signed and sealed and with no consultation. I just can't believe it, that if we see the plane coming in at night, we know at least 95% or 98% the plane will go out in the morning. And that brings a lot, it reduces the stress for people that are flying up in the morning. But now, how do you know that the flight will leave in time? How do you know that it will be in time, that it will land, and that these patients will actually make it to Dublin?
And I think Ailish made a really good point about its priority in a very, very busy airport. So it would be competing with your 747s, etc., each and every morning, and this little plane. Where does it stand in the wider scale of things? I think it's a very critical point, Mary, that you've made about how this is part of a sequence. In other words, there's an understanding with the hospitals down there that this is when Donegal patients get in. If possible, this is when we can get them back home again. And that's intricate. That takes a lot of time to sort of get into place. It has to have a certain degree of certainty about the flight's departure and its time of departure. All of that could effectively be thrown into disarray. And how could we expect these hospitals to reserve slots for us if there's uncertainty as to whether or not we could actually make those slots? That's a big deal for me.
It is, and it's a huge deal for us. It is huge because, if patients were really stressed about this, they would start, if at all, using the flight at night to ensure they'd be there in the morning. And that incurs additional costs, which people don't have. If people are dealing with cancer diagnosis, they're either they're not at work or they're receiving a pension. Who can afford to stay in Dublin overnight?
But also, not only that, they would fly in at night, have to get from the airport to accommodation, then get to the appointment in the hospital, and then sit around for the rest of the day for a return flight. I can see people almost refusing treatments rather than going through that. I think we would find ourselves with people that just say it's not worth it.
And that's true. You will find that patients will miss critical appointments because they can't get to Dublin for their appointments. And do you know, Greg, if you sit in an airport all day, if you're well, it's a long day. But if you're not well, if you're sick, you don't want to be sitting in an airport all day and going out at 7 o'clock, back home at 7 o'clock in the evening. It's too long. Some of these people are coming out of hospital after receiving treatment. I can't understand it, and I have spoken to Pat the Cope Gallagher and Piers Doherty, and we have requested an urgent meeting with the Minister because, it is the same old story. Donegal is neglected once again. And, I'm so tired of this, that every time that there is something to do with this airline, there's no consultation with anybody. It's just,
Why do we have to fight for everything? We have to fight for absolutely everything. It's Tuesday morning, a new week, and here we are battling to not get something new, battling to retain our timely access to cancer care.
And that's what it is. We don't have the medical expertise that these people need, and they need to get to Dublin. And so many of these would not be able to travel by bus or by
No,
car
it's
to
a
Dublin.
nightmare. That's
too long. It's
yep,
a nightmare. And this is the best way for them to travel. And all of a sudden, it creates a huge worry for all of these patients and children that have to travel to Dublin for medical purposes.
I recognise
I think
that
it's very unfair.
I've recognised that you've spoken to effectively your local TDs in Pat the Cope Gallagher and Pierce Doherty, Fianna Fáil and Sinn Féin respectively, but we have 5. And this isn't a party political issue. This isn't a regional issue within a region. There are people that use these services from all over Donegal. Donegal Airport's not Pat's and it's not Pierce's, right? It's all of ours. I think it's really important that councillors, local TDs get in on this one really, really quickly and ensure that because unfortunately the people that this affects in a negative way don't get counted. That's the thing about this. Yous are on the ground flat out trying to give people the best outcomes as is possible. But if this change happens, those people don't get counted any longer. They just become obituary notices or they just become long-term hospital residents. And I'm not writing everyone off with cancer. I hope people understand the place I'm coming from with that, but they don't get counted. And it's so important now that we are counting them and making sure that people, our families, our loved ones have access to this treatment that's on the doorstep of people in the capital.
And we will be in touch with the other TDs. Anybody that can carry a voice for Donegal, we will be in touch with them today. At this point, we are working on an online petition.
Understood.
I'm actually in Dublin tomorrow at the Irish Cancer Society. I would love to meet with the Minister tomorrow. I would love to meet the Minister and just
articulate
just have
that
a chance.
to him, yeah. Well, listen, I mean, I want him to hear. I want them to hear this conversation. Caroline, we've been in touch with the minister's office, the Transport Minister's office. So we will see what they have to say. We're going to seek to speak to them, of course, be it the senior or junior minister, anyone with their level of responsibility in relation to this, because they have to. Politics should be about accountability, and if someone makes this decision, they have to explain why they've made the decision and the rationale. The days of these things just happening and no one challenging it are over. They're certainly over in this part of the world and on this programme. If someone's made that decision, they have to come on, back that decision, justify it and show the rationale for it. Because otherwise we don't live in a democracy. We live in some sort of a dictatorship. So we'll pursue that, Mary. I know you're doing what you're doing. People can sign that. But this is not about politics. This is about PSOs, it's about money, it's about airlines, and it's about the health and well-being of the people of Donegal. And that transcends politics, in my view. Mary, listen, keep us updated if there's anything that we need to be talking about, or if you get any meeting tomorrow. As I say, we're going to bombard the Minister's office, demanding the answers I've just to set out the questions for. Thanks, Mary. That's Mary Coyle there. Connell, sorry for holding you there. You know, Mary does amazing work, her and the team at Donegal Cancer Flights and Services, so a critical voice in all of this. You've been looking at what we have to fight for compared to other parts of the country.
Yeah, well, I think on tourism, I mean, if you look at Kerry Airport, Reid Railway Station and Killarney Railway Station, only 20 minutes from it, and they have up to 8 departures each day and 8 arrivals, and they're only an hour. They're not far either from Shannon Airport or Cork Airport. And I mean, if we're to develop tourism, say in Donegal, because of the transport difficulty to get into the county with no railway lines or anything, we need an airport like Donegal to be greatly enhanced. I mean, if you're developing new hotels, say in Gweedore and that, and Dunlow and the whole of West Donegal, and we've put so much emphasis on our tourism industry, that you have to try to take people in from the UK and planes, you know, and have a package for them here for the week, because we're so isolated. We need to use the airport, and rather than having one flight a day, I mean, we need to look at how can we enhance it greatly to have a lot of flights from the UK where we have a great number of Irish ancestry there, you know.
Yeah, and you make a good point. There are other areas with PSOs that are serviced by other forms of transport. We're not, and here we are battling to get a usable PSO connection to Dublin.
Yeah, and there's proposals with new hotels, say in Gweedore, and that's on the beside it there, that you're not going to have them hotels filled unless you planes from the UK and to occupy it and have a week's holiday for them here. Like, you know, same as people, Donegal has a great deal to offer, and people package holidays to that's what made the islands off Spain. But even Donegal is in the 60s. We had so many people coming here in hotels and everything there, and we have the airport now, so we need just to look at how can we have aircraft coming into the airport and bringing tourists and taking them back out again.
All right, Connell, listen, thank you very much indeed for that. Final text before a break. Good morning, Greg. In relation to the change to the Donegal flight to Dublin, any planned change to the Kerry flight? Thanks, Charlie. Come on, Charlie.
Are you playing Vision Ireland Bingo on Highland Radio? There is over €13,000 of a jackpot up for grabs. Tune in every day, play along, and you could be our next big winner. Get your bingo books now at your local store to play Vision Ireland Bingo on Highland Radio.
Looking for your dream car? Look no further than Heron Auto Donegal Town. With a massive selection of over 70 quality used cars in stock, we've got the perfect vehicle waiting just for you. Call in to Heron Auto today and drive home in style with a car that fits your taste and budget. Drive with confidence. Drive with Heron Auto.
At Eclipse Cinemas Bundoran and Lifford Strabane, the stars shine brighter. This isn't just a trip to the movies, it's a VIP experience. Sit back in luxury as your favourite pizza,
Yummy.
hot food and a cold drink are delivered right to your seat in any studio. But for the ultimate treat, step into the Director's Lounge, our most popular destination. Enjoy the film, enjoy the food, and savour the experience. Only at Eclipse Cinemas Bundoran and Lifford Strabane.
Mabel special offers. Refresh with Evian 1.5 litre for just $1.25 plus DRS. And kickstart your mornings with Weetabix 72s for only €6.50. A family breakfast favourite. This Valentine's, love local, love Mabel. From special treats to gifts to flowers, chocolates and cards. And all the fresh meats, fruit and veg you need for a romantic breakfast or dinner. Mabel has it all. Plus enter in store to win a luxurious Valentine's hamper. Mabel Stores. Love local, love Mabel.
Highland Radio weather updates with McElhenney's. Looking for the perfect outfit for an upcoming event? We have new occasion wear styles arriving every week. Visit us in Ballybuffet or shop online at mcelhenneys.com.
Right, let's have a look at that weather forecast for this morning. And cloudy with scattered outbreaks of rain and drizzle. Highest temperatures of 3 to 6 degrees. Moderate to fresh easterly winds will ease through the day. So with sadness, we learned at the weekend of the passing of Joe Mulholland, who has died in Dublin at the age of 85 after a long illness. Originally from Stranorlar, Joe was very influential. He was director of RTE Television. I think up here we're well aware of that, of course, but he is synonymous with the McGill Summer School, something clearly he was incredibly passionate about. Michael Gallagher is chair of McGill Summer School in Glentees, and first and foremost, our condolences, Michael, to you and all involved with the McGill Summer School.
Yeah, thank you. He's a great loss to us. Joe is very much a part of Glentees. His arrival every year in the weeks before the summer school to make arrangements created a buzz around the town, and it lasted right in through the week of the summer school itself. A true Glentees man in many ways. Yeah, he had a great affinity for the town.
And it was really quite remarkable establishing this event that attracted the who's who of politics and beyond politics, in fact. It just became a headline-making event.
Yeah, it's an interesting story. It probably originates in the fact that his father used to migrate to Scotland to work on hydroelectric schemes, seasonal work, and he would return home with some books, usually of Patrick McGill, like The Rat Pit and Children of the Dead End. Joe Mulholland, as a young boy, read those and was greatly inspired by the McGill story and how McGill had risen to fortune and fame through his writings and his like selling his own poetry books door to door, his sense of initiative and determination to succeed. Yeah. So around about the end of the 1970s, going into 1980, a group in Glentees were looking to form an event, a festival, to commemorate Patrick McGill. At the same time, and slightly before that, Joe Mulholland had asked an important question, which was, what exactly had happened to Patrick McGill?
Mm-hmm.
He had risen to fame and fortune, and he had many books to his credit, and he had produced a play which in fact was not very successful. But in 1928 he decided to move to the United States. And having moved to the United States, of course, the Wall Street crash happened. Patrick McGill moved to California, where the film industry was developing. He then moved to Florida, we know, but after that he seemed to vanish off the face of the earth. And then around about the end of the 1970s, Joe Mulholland asked an important question. What had happened to Patrick McGill? And typical Joe Mulholland, of course, he did a very practical thing. He put an advertisement in a literary magazine in New England. And amazingly, a daughter of Patrick McGill's, I think it was Sheila, noticed the advertisement, contacted Joe. Joe went out to see them. He found that, in fact, Patrick McGill had died a number of years previously. He invited them to come back to Glenties, and that led to the establishment of the Patrick McGill Festival. And in 3 years, each year in succession, Joe told the story of Patrick McGill's early life, his rise to fame and fortune, his life as an abbey poet in Scotland, and his life in England, and eventually his move to America and descent into oblivion. 3 years.
Wow. And from that, look what grew. And also to, I know he was close with Brian Friel. I wasn't aware, though I should have been, that he was a founding member of the Brian Friel Trust, which was established, of course, to preserve and celebrate the playwright's legacy. So Joe Mulholland will live on eternally in many different spheres, not just his contribution to broadcasting and news creation and dissemination, but also with this festival that will continue, I'm sure, and also to forever locking in Brian Friel's legacy in Glenties.
Yeah, you're absolutely right. Like, you know, he had a long-standing friendship with Brian Friel, and he regarded him as one of the greatest dramatists of the 20th century. Now, they both shared an intense regard, indeed love, for Glenties. Like, Glenties is the valley beg of Friel's plays, and it is the home place of Patrick McGill. And when Dancing at Lunasa appeared in 1990, Joe Mulholland could not wait to bring this play to Glenties. Now, bringing this together to Glenties was a bit difficult because he could not get the full cast of the London production or the full cast of the New York production. So, ever the practical man, Joe drew some from New York, some from London. And Brian Friel sat at a performance in Glenties in the Comprehensive School within a stone's throw of the actual house, his aunts, they're the characters in the play, the house that they had lived in. Joe's sense of the dramatic here.
What an amazing piece of history. Michael, we'll have more reflections on Joe Mulholland into the future. Thank you so much for joining us. I wasn't aware that he was ill. He was one of those characters that you would, such a strong character, you never even consider. Perhaps someone like he might get ill, if that makes sense. But
I know.
Yeah, but
he always turned up.
Yes, of course. Thank you very much indeed. That's Michael Gallagher, Chair of McGill Summer School. Joe Mulholland, his wife Annie died in August of 2025, and he's survived by his children Fiona, Sylvain and Julian, and we're thinking on all of those. But he's left such a legacy. What a wonderful thing. It's always sad hearing of someone passing, but my word, if I could contribute a percentage of what he has and be remembered for that, you'd be grateful, wouldn't you?
Well, it could have been the whiskey. It's It's that time of year again. Time for the Highland Radio Birthday Bash. Come celebrate with us at the Mount Errigal Hotel on Tuesday the 24th of March for one massive night of live music and great crack. Music on the night from Mike Denver, Jimmy Buckley, Patrick Feeney, Aoife Neal, myself David James and the Tumbling Paddies, all together for one unforgettable show. That's the Highland Radio Birthday Bash, Tuesday the 24th of March. Tickets now on sale at highlandradio.com.
Are you building, rebuilding or simply improving your home? Come along to Donegal's premier gathering of home building professionals in the Northwest. Donegal New Build and Rebuild 2026 will take place in the Mount Errigal Hotel, Letterkenny. Admission is free to this 2-day event from Saturday 7th until Sunday 8th of February. This ad is sponsored by McDade Bathroom Plumbing and Tiles.
The McElhenney's communion rooms are now open for 2026 bookings. Our diary is filling up fast, so book early to explore our gorgeous selection of communion dresses and accessories. Call 07491311217 today to secure your appointment with our expert team and find the perfect dress for your little princess at McElhenney's.
Treating yourself to any 3 pastries for only €3 with Lidl Plus. That's more to value. With delicious Danish pastries, perfect pan au chocolat, chocolate twists, toffee yum-yums, croissants of the almond and hazelnut variety, plus magnificent maple and pecan plats. Pick your faves with Lidl Plus, any 3 for just €3. Lidl, more to value.
Ensure the safety of your team with SafeTech. We have part-funded courses in first aid, people moving and handling, confined spaces, food hygiene, quad bikes, fire warden, IPAF MUPS, electrofusion, welding and machinery cards for Ireland and UK sites. Also delivering online courses like utilities, water hygiene and construction supervisors. SafeTech can deliver group training at your business premises. To find out more, contact safetech.ie today.
McGowan Hearing, one of the longest established audiologists in the Northwest, now have weekly clinics in Letterkenny, Buncrana and Carndonagh. Book your free hearing aid consultation at one of these clinics or with audiologist Darren McGowan in your own home. Call 07191 00208 or visit mcgowanhearing.com.
Live, on air, online and on the Highland Radio app. This is Highland Radio News.
Good morning with the Highland Radio News at 10 o'clock. I'm Ryan Brawley. The Minister for Transport is facing calls to protect an afternoon air service from Donegal Airport to Dublin. Under a new draft public service obligation contract, there are plans to alter current flight times significantly, which could have an impact on those travelling to Dublin for vital medical appointments. Additionally, the new plans show a plane will no longer stay overnight at Donegal Airport, which has prompted concern. Managing Director at Donegal Airport, Ailish Docherty, outlined these issues on today's Greg Hughes Show.
There'll be no midday rotation. Now, the concern that we have with those flight times is that aircraft is not on the ground in Donegal, so there is no assurance for our passengers that there's an aircraft there in the morning. And it will be impacted by weather issues trying to land into Donegal. It will be delayed getting out of Dublin in the morning due to congestion and, an ATR lining up against the 737 for takeoff, who's going to get the priority there. So we just have serious concerns that will impact actually on our morning departure. That's that vital 8 a.m. flight that goes out.
The SDLP's economy spokesperson has told the Stormont Assembly it makes sense to rejoin the European Union as the global economic order of the world continues to shift. Sinead McLaughlin believes that the domestic and international uncertainties created by the Trump regime have led the international investors to look beyond the United States, and it is in this context that the island of Ireland has a lot to offer in terms of stability and growth. However, the Foyle MLA has said this can only happen if Stormont and London are prepared to take the initiative.
A rebalancing of the global economy presents a real opportunity for Ireland North and South. A world where capital and innovation are more evenly distributed, in one where smaller regions can actually thrive, but only if we are prepared to seize the moment. The British government must move with urgency to rebuild closer alliances with Europe. Leaving the European Union was a major misstep, but it is a decision that can be reversed.
A bust of former US Senator George Mitchell will be removed from the grounds of Queen's University Belfast. Mr Mitchell was honoured by the university in 2023, noted for his contribution to the creation of the Good Friday Agreement and peace in Northern Ireland. However, his name was included in the latest release of the Epstein files, detailing links with the disgraced paedophile. As a result, Queen's University will cut ties with the 92-year-old. Freelance journalist Amanda Ferguson has outlined Mitchell's response.
A spokesman for George Mitchell said that he never met, spoke or had any contact with Virginia Giuffre or any underage women, and that he profoundly regretted ever having known Jeffrey Epstein and condemns without reservation the horrific harm that Jeffrey Epstein inflicted on so many women.
Meanwhile, Peter Manderson could face a criminal investigation after police in Britain revealed they are looking into claims of alleged misconduct in public office following the release of more files. It is claimed the 72-year-old former senior member of the British Labour Party leaked sensitive information to the late paedophile while he was a member in Gordon Brown's government. NASA has moved the launch of its Artemis 2 rocket after cutting short a test. It was referred to as a wet rehearsal and was supposed to give engineers a chance to practice loading and removing fuel, but they stopped when engineers spotted a liquid hydrogen leak. NASA say they will now aim for March as the earliest possible launch opportunity for the moon mission. The Rafah crossing between Israel and Egypt has reopened, allowing a small number of Palestinians to return to the enclave on foot. The crossing, which has been mostly shut since the war, is part of the last major steps required under the initial phase of the US brokered ceasefire. While welcoming the reopening by the EU, the number of people crossing on foot is limited. UNICEF Ireland's Executive Director, Peter Power, says it is important for aid trucks to get through the crossing.
UNICEF welcomes the opening of the border crossing at Rafah. It's part of the ceasefire arrangement. At the moment, it's only people who can get back and forth, and they themselves are subject to extreme security consideration. And the intention is to allow aid trucks in because Rafah is the most, and always has been, the most important crossing for humanitarian aid trucks, and we desperately need it to be opened.
And the weather, cloudy with scattered outbreaks of rain and drizzle. Highest temperatures of 3 to 6 degrees. Moderate to fresh easterly winds will ease through the day. That's all for the newsroom for now. We'll be back at headlines again at 11 o'clock.
The obituary notices for this Tuesday morning, the 3rd of February. The death has taken place of Anna Patton, née Gallagher, 13 Laurel Drive, Strabane, reposing at her home from 4 o'clock this afternoon. Funeral from there on Thursday morning at 9:25 for Requiem Mass in St Mary's Church, Melmount at 10 o'clock. Interment afterwards in the adjoining cemetery. Family time, please, from 10 p.m. to 11 a.m. and on the morning of the funeral. The Requiem Mass can be viewed live via the parish webcam. The death has taken place of Rita Boyle, née Lafferty, 2 Olympic Drive, Strabane, formerly of Ballindrate, reposing at her home. Funeral from there tomorrow morning at 9:25 for Requiem Mass in St Mary's Church, Melmount at 10 o'clock. Interment afterwards in the adjoining cemetery. Donations in lieu of flowers, please, to St Vincent de Paul, care of Quigley Funeral Directors. Family time, please, from 10 o'clock tonight and before the funeral tomorrow. The Requiem Mass can be viewed live via the parish webcam. The death has taken place of Monica McTighe, née Connolly, 5 Ingleside Heights, Strabane, reposing at her home from 12 noon today. Funeral from there on Thursday morning at 9:25 for Requiem Mass in the Church of the Immaculate Conception, Strabane at 10 o'clock. Interment afterwards in Strabane Cemetery. Donations in lieu of flowers, please, to the Foyle Hospice, care of Quigley Funeral Directors. Family time, please, from 10 p.m. to 11 a.m. and on the morning of the funeral. The Requiem Mass can be viewed live via the parish webcam. The death has occurred of John Desi Rooney, 4 Greenbank Cottages, Quigley's Point, formerly of Tulla, Clonmany. Funeral this morning with 11 o'clock Requiem Mass in St Mary's Church, Clonmany, followed by interment in the adjoining cemetery. Family flowers only, please. Donations in lieu if desired to the Oncology Unit, Letterkenny University Hospital, care of any family member. The death has occurred of Nolene Brennan, née McCole, Hillhead, Ardra. Her remains will repose at her home today from 12 noon until 9 p.m. Requiem Mass at 12 noon tomorrow in the Church of the Holy Family, Ardra, followed by burial in the adjoining cemetery. The funeral mass can be viewed on MCN Media. The death has occurred of Dan Callaghan, Carrowkeel, Quigley's Point. Funeral from his home this morning at 10:30 for 11 o'clock requiem mass in St Columba's Church, Drung, followed by interment in the adjoining cemetery. The requiem mass can be viewed live on stcolumbusdrung.net. Family flowers only, please. And the death has occurred of Sally Houston, née Hughes, Cole Hill, Newton Cunningham, in her 102nd year. Funeral mass in All Saints Church, Newton Cunningham, today at 12 noon, followed by interment in the adjoining cemetery. The funeral mass can be viewed on churchservices.tv. For family information and more details regarding wakes and funerals, please go to highlandradio.com.
Homeowners know what trouble sounds like. Uh-oh. That's why they're covered by Ireland's soundest home insurance provider, SuperValue Insurance.
OK, well, thanks for calling us, Claire. Sure, we've all been there. I'm an air fryer man these days. One straight to air fry a turnip. Wasn't bad, actually.
Get a quote from SuperValue Home Insurance to get 15% off online. And we'll even throw in €40 in vouchers. T's and C's apply. Vouchers include two €20 or €40 spend. Home contents only, policies excluded. This home insurance is underwritten by AXA Insurance DAC. SuperValue Financial Services DAC, trading as SuperValue Insurance, is regulated by the Central Bank of Ireland.
Your viewpoint, your region, your show. The Greg Hughes Show.
Hello, welcome back into the second stroke last hour of the programme. A caller says, looks to me that the powers that be are looking for a way to justify the discontinuation of the flight. Next year, they'll be saying most flights are empty and it's not financially viable, then pull out. What a fantastic point. And it's a point I was actually, believe it or not, going to make myself. You could argue then, well, no one's using it, so there's no justification for it. Really good point. They go on to say, look at Kerry, approximately the same distance. There are better roads, rail connection, and still they have a number of 737 services to Dublin daily, whereas they're trying to shut CFN down, that's Carrickfinn Airport, like Sligo. Where is the cope now? He promised big things as regards the Dublin flight. I know he's been speaking to the likes of Mary Coyle, who we spoke to a little earlier on. I'm not sure if he's reached out to us or vice versa just yet. What about Inishowen, Ballyshannon, Glencolmkill, Killybegs and other areas that don't have an airport besides them? It's not fair for other areas in Donegal. We need to stand up for the whole county. I'm a cancer patient myself and I don't have the luxury of getting a flight home the same day. But sure, why would you, in your position, understanding it, do anything else other than say, wow, okay, let's get this done. There is going to be a Dublin flight from Derry, which will service much of the east of the county. And also, too, it's a bit of a misnomer to say that it's only people in and around Carrickfinn Airport that use that service. There are people from all over that can make that journey, say, for instance, from Letterkenny to Carrickfinn, but they couldn't endure the journey all the way, say, for instance, via bus or car down as well. So it's not an east-west situation. We really don't, and I'm not saying you're doing it, we really don't want to... really don't want to do any infighting on these issues or we'll lose altogether. Greg, to be honest, the flight should be leaving Carrickfinn at 7 a.m, going to Dublin. Anyone going up for business or work are not getting to the city until near 10. The thing is with that, though, it's like the cancer flights and the hospitals working with the cancer flights. When it's established, people can work around it and an hour here or there perhaps can, maybe someone's working day can be adjusted if they're commuting to work via the plane, for an example. But I understand what you're saying, but you're never going to get it perfect. But it seems to be at a sweet spot now when they're changing it. This caller said they should be adding more flights, not taking them away. Another caller says we need those flights to be kept on, but the 6 a.m. flight from Dublin to Carrickfinn sounds brilliant. 2 loads of flights coming into Dublin after the buses leave for Letterkenny, although I think they've changed those times too, and you have to sit at the airport until a bus in the morning, plus the fact you have to get another bus in Dunlow at around or surrounding areas. You're travelling for hours when a flight would cut some of those hours. The only thing is, who's going to be in Dublin Airport at 4 o'clock to get a 6 a.m. flight to Donegal? I don't know. I can't imagine there being a dozen people on that flight. Am I wrong? Joe Mulholland on his passing. Sorry to hear that Joe Mulholland has died. Rest in peace. Thanks for all that he did to remember wonderful writers Patrick McGill and Brian Field and their connections to Glenties. I used to attend the McGill Summer School, and it wasn't really for me, to be honest with you. It was a bit la-di-da, and it's just not the type of person I am. But I was able to stand and watch on and recognise how important it was to many, many people. And that's not in any way to take away from it. I said this before on the radio, and I'm not going to change that now. It was very highfalutin for me, but still, I went down and sat on couches with John Hume and Martin McGuinness and talked to these people there, and it was great to get access to them. How else might you have otherwise? So it was good. It was good, as I say, but just on an annual basis, just not necessarily. I didn't feel it spoke to me or many of the people here, but I could be wrong in relation to that. A caller says on Sinn Féin, I've never supported Sinn Féin, but Pierce Doherty is right. How can we be military neutral and on the other hand contribute billions to finance an ongoing war? It's over $1 billion. Our government is selling us out to the EU masters at the cost of their own Irish citizens. This will not end well. There will be a breaking point, says that listener. Another, Pierce is 100% right. Another, good morning, Greg. Would you please find out why Ireland holds $350 billion in US government bonds when our country has so many homeless and in poverty? On Jeffrey Epstein, he seems to have his claws into everyone in America and the UK and even Norway. One theory is that he was an Israeli agent and was gathering evidence to blackmail people of influence for the benefit of Israel. Our Candace Owens, sometimes if people are anti-Israel, they try and link everything to it. And Harvey Weinstein's another horrible person. People have tried to do that too as well. He had so much influence. He guaranteed a pardon from Donald Trump. This is what makes it quite bizarre that he died by suicide in a prison cell. And some video footage around the time that he did has gone missing. It is clear that he had an awful lot of dirt on people, that was his power. He would get people of power and he would get dirt on them. And, it does make you wonder why he would take his own life when he had so much influence to get a pardon, to get a lighter sentence. His claws went into the highest offices in the United States and other countries as well, and also to the judiciary and other people of influence, which makes me question whether or not, Russia disappears people all of the time. Do we think America's beyond that? Of course not. But anyway, I don't even think that's a conspiracy theory, to be honest with you, because I think there's actually some logic to it. It really upsets me that people that I would have time for are giving people a pass because they are of the same political viewpoint as them. That's what bothers me. That I think when you're talking about the abuse of children and young women, young girls, for the pleasure of rich men, that's what they were doing. It's horrendous, isn't it? And there are people that were adjacent to it, if not directly involved in it, and they're completely getting off scot-free. But the thing, as I say, that annoys me most is ordinarily good people are defending them, defending people associating with a paedophile, defending people who are adjacent to that, were aware of it, continue to engage with him, and there are question marks as to whether or not they attended any of his parties or wanted to attend his parties, such as your Elon Musk's, who claims that his emails are being taken out of context when he's saying, when's the next party? I don't want a quiet island situation. I want craziness. And then discussing young girls at a UN conference and all this kind of stuff. And people are defending that. And I'm not saying people are guilty without trial, but my word, they should be scrutinised. I think, anyway, they should be scrutinised. And people need to sort of say, is my political allegiance or my ideology actually, blurring my moral compass?
It's time for Vision Ireland Bingo on Highland Radio.
It's Tuesday the 3rd of February. You're playing on the brown sheet for the daily prize of €1,000. The reference number is S7. It's game number 6. The numbers are 15, 18, 44, 40, 67, 55, 16, 43, 63, and finally 46. Phone your claim to 9104833 before midnight, leaving your name, contact number and the name of the shop where you purchased your book, and we'll call you back the next working day. Get all your Vision Ireland bingo information at highlandradio.com. Nutrius XL Yo with Lamb and Nutrius Yo with Lamb Crunch are both formulated to ensure a vigorous lamb and excellent milk yield. Avail of our lambing season offer: 25 kg bags, buy 10 get 1 free, and €15 off per tonne in bulk. Available at your local Homeland store, or contact your farm commercial specialist. Visit nutrius.ie for full nutritional information.
At McDade's Bathroom Plumbing Tiles, Cockhill, Buncrana, it's about more than products, it's about how you're looked after. We're a family-run Donegal business, known for honest advice, quality work and service that's always just a phone call away. From bathrooms and tiling with over 40 fabulous displays to plumbing and renewable solutions, we help you see it, feel it and make it yours with confidence. Done right, done once. Call McDade's on 07493635050 or visit our website at pjmcdade.com.
Imagine your wedding at the foot of Errigal Mountain in the heart of Donegal's Gaeltacht. Anchorage Hotel in Gweedore offers elegant spaces, stunning views and every detail planned for your perfect day. Celebrate your love surrounded by Donegal's breathtaking beauty. Your dream wedding awaits at anchoragehotel.com.
Now, Community Garda information is on the way. Garda Grania Doherty is in the building and will be joining me shortly. First, I want to say good morning to Fianna Fáil MEP Cynthia Ní Good morning to you. Thank you so much for your time today.
You heard Greg. Will too. Listening there about the Gweedore has put the longing on me now to go on holidays to the Gaeltacht there.
Well, you would fit in like a hand into a glove, I've no doubt about that.
I love it up there. It's fantastic.
Yes, indeed. Now, you're pointing out, I don't know if it's an anomaly, but certainly it raises questions in relation to the number of drink and drug driving checkpoints we're seeing conducted versus the detections of drink and drug driving instances and, of course, then appearances before district courts. They've gone up significantly. What are you reading from these figures, Cynthia?
Yeah, well, first of all, Greg, I don't think it's an anomaly. I think the data and the statistics for the last 10 years and more in relation to road safety and particularly road deaths is only going in one direction, the wrong direction, and it's getting higher and higher and increasing. And we do know, again, based on sound data, that last year in 2025, the amount of road deaths at 190 were the highest since 2014. So that's over 10 years ago. Now, I'm very concerned about the rising number of road deaths, and therefore I look at other issues pertaining to road safety. And one of them is mandatory intoxication testing, the checkpoints for drunken driving and drug driving and so forth. And based on the figures that I unearthed through the Pulse system, basically we've seen a 7.5% drop nationally in checkpoints between Q3 of 24 and Q3 of 25. Now that's the figure nationally, a drop in checkpoints, 7.5% drop. And in most Garda divisions, there was a reduction beyond 7.5%, a reduction of checkpoints. And in very few counties, Clare, Tip and Mayo Roscommon, Longford and Meath, Westmeath, there was an increase. It was going in the right direction. But that's not good enough. If it depends on which county you're driving through or living in and driving in to ensure your safety, that's no good, I say. And what I say is, look, the Garda resources, whether they are limited and being built up, as we know they are, and we have an increasing population, but which or whether, and whatever resources the management of Garda Síochána has and the Commissioner has, him and his management team need to prioritise road safety, especially since you pointed out in the introduction, Greg, that the data that I got for the prosecutions coming before the District Court for drug driving have increased over the past 2 years.
Drug taking is illegal, by a whopping 52%. My apologies. And in Donegal up 67%. Yeah.
Yeah, it's huge.
And this is in no way to to confuse the point whatsoever. But I do believe there needs to be more communication about how long drug stays in one system. And maybe that actually might deter people from taking drugs at all, and it could be effective in that regard. We have an understanding or some understanding of when you have a drink and at what point you are safe to drive. In relation to the drug testing, I'm not sure how many people are actively under the influence of drugs or there are still traces of drugs in their system. This is separate to the point that you're making. Do you think there is an argument for that to be articulated more clearly? And it's not so people take drugs at the right time. It might actually stop people taking drugs on the Friday or Saturday night and getting done on the Monday or Tuesday.
I think that is part of the solution, but I would have it ranking down rather far down the list, because I can tell you education is key. I was a teacher. I know about the importance of education, and you're speaking about an information education piece, Greg, and rightly so. But can I tell you, with the shocking increase in road deaths, I do think we need more of a dramatic
that's the
and
priority.
a consistent, it is a consistent presence of an Garda Síochána at checkpoints on our roads. And Greg, not just around bank holidays. Like this bank holiday coming, it just triggered me because I knew on the Wednesday or the Thursday, the eve of the bank holiday, there was going to be a lot of press releases, a lot of advertisement in relation to the fact that the presence of an Garda Síochána would be hugely increased at checkpoints and on our roads. Brilliant, I say. But what happens in between all of our bank holidays? And quite frankly, based on the figures that I've received for the reduction in the roadside testing, there is less testing happening. So whatever increase happens over a bank holiday, it's completely ineffective and it's undone by the rest of the year.
Yes, and you could say it kind of paints a picture that we're doing more than we are doing. Is it resources then? I mean, how do you go from almost 13,000 mandatory intoxication testing checkpoints down to, short of 12,000? That's a significant drop, as you've been highlighting. Is it down to resources?
Of course, it's down to resources, but it's also down to deploying and managing resources. So remember, it's not just about saying, oh, we only have XYZ amount of Gardaí, which, by the way, is higher than the amount of guards that we had in 2019. I just compared the two figures and I can give it to you when I have it to hand. But the point of this exercise and in talking to you is that resources are managed and resources are prioritised. And the European Union, for example, when I went on the Transport Committee, one of the first things I wanted to talk about was road safety. And I found out that way back in the day in 2018, that they had rolled out a zero tolerance with regards to road deaths. And they wanted to reduce road deaths by 2030 to zero. And you might say, well, a very lofty objective. But nonetheless, they've been tracking it steadily. And I do know from figures released in March 2025 that the European Commission released that it showed that road fatalities for 2024 was a 3% decrease on 2023. Very good. Not enough to get to zero by 2030. But let's look at Ireland. So Ireland in the ranking is not doing well in terms of reducing road deaths. So the 3% decrease that we've seen across the board in Europe is not reflected in Ireland. In fact, where the amount of road deaths are increasing, Greg. That's not
Give us
good
those
enough.
comparisons to 2019, because it is quite interesting, especially in the context of my resources question.
Yes, sorry. Do you mean the figures for
The fact that
roadside testing?
we were carrying out more tests with less staff, effectively.
Exactly. Okay, so if you look at 2019 and if you look at the roadside testing checkpoints, in 2019 in quarter three, there was 15,392 carried out. Call it 15,400. If we compare that to quarter three in the year just gone by, 2025, the figure was down to 11,958, just shy of 12,000. So you're talking, Greg, on that maths of a differential of 3,000 and more in terms of roadside
And I
testing.
suppose with controversies over testing in the past and also analysis of attitudes in that particular division too, it certainly all needs scrutiny, especially when our fatalities on the roads are going in the wrong way. For now, though, thank you very much indeed for your time. That is MEP Cynthia Ní Morthú there. On the flights, is this anything to do with the new flight from Derry to Dublin that will operate? That will be operation later this year? It shouldn't be. I don't see how it could be. But anyway, there you go. Okay, I'm going to take a break. Coming up thereafter, we have got Grania Doherty with this week's edition of Community Garda Information.
Thinking about a new car? Make it happen with a fast, flexible and affordable car loan from B&S Credit Union. With us, you own your car from day one. No hidden fees, no penalties, just straightforward borrowing you can trust. So why wait? Apply now at B&S Credit Union Ballybofey. Visit bnscu.ie or free phone 1800 290 390, where our dedicated team will be delighted to help you. Loans are subject to approval. Terms and conditions apply. B&S Credit Union Limited is regulated by the Central Bank of Ireland.
Well, are you excited about your first day? I'm sure the teacher will be lovely. Sometimes the moments that never happen matter the most. And with Safe Space technology, the Volvo EX90 sees things you might miss. Meet the Volvo EX90, designed to be the safest Volvo car ever made. Learn more at volvocars.ie.
To refresh your home, visit Foy's Fabric Department in Letterkenny. We've got ready-made curtains, made-to-measure options, window blinds of every kind and so much more. From cushions and throws to upholstery fabrics, choose from top global brands and get advice from our experienced interior design team. Style it your way with Foy's, Port Road, Letterkenny.
If the medical experts get it wrong, everything changes. From misdiagnosis or delayed diagnosis to surgical injury or even poor treatment, all have physical, emotional and financial consequences. We're here to help. So if your treatment didn't go according to plan, speak to our experienced medical negligence team at McElhenney & Associates. Find us online or call 074 917 5989. McElhenney & Associates Solicitors, Stranorlar. In contentious business, a solicitor may not calculate fees or other charges as a percentage or proportion of any award or settlement.
The Community Garda information slot is brought to you by Sheridan Security Systems, monitoring homes and businesses in the northwest for intruder, fire, panic and medical signals. Call Sheridan Security on 91 26025.
Now, it is Tuesday the 3rd of February. It's time for this week's Community Garda information, and I'm joined in studio by Garda Grania Doherty up from the Letterkenny Garda station. Grania, thank you very much for your time, as always.
No problem, thank you.
Right, we'll get straight into the appeals because we've got a lot to get through, and there's some advice as well upcoming. And we'll start with investigations ongoing into criminal damage in Carnamugga.
Yes, Garda are investigating this incident of criminal damage. It occurred at the Nassmore Apartments at Carnamugga, Letterkenny, between 10 p.m. on Wednesday the 28th of January and the following morning, 7:50 a.m. on Thursday the 29th. So a car had been parked up in the car park at that apartment block, and between those times, the owner returned to discover that the rear windscreen had been smashed. We're appealing to anybody in that area if they witnessed this incident or if they have any relevant information. We're asking them to please pass that information on to Gardaí in Letterkenny on 9167100.
Now, criminal damage being investigated in Carndonagh.
Yes, another incident of criminal damage. This happened on the New Park Road, Carndonagh, on Saturday the 31st of January in around 8:35 p.m. So a bus had just pulled in to let a load of passengers out in that area. A couple of minutes later, something was thrown at the bus and causing a window to smash. So we're appealing to anybody who might have travelled at that location between 8:30 p.m. and 8:45 p.m. with a dash cam to make that footage available to us. That's, it's early enough in the evening, so hopefully somebody might have observed the incident, either seen something that would be of assistance to us. Any information should be passed to Gardaí in Buncrana on 9320540.
Crazy behaviour. Pointless. It's all pointless, but that's crazy altogether. Right, Market Square, Rathmullen next.
Yeah, this is in relation to a couple of incidents of home heating oil thefts. Now, we have seen incidents like this start to creep up over the past few weeks and months here and there, but these two incidents happened in two neighbouring properties in the Market Square area of Rathmullen. So between January 16th and January 29th, so the gardens of two neighbouring properties were entered and the oil was stolen from the tanks. One of the tanks had been unlocked, but the other tank had been locked, but the lock was cut. So we're appealing to anybody who might have observed any type of suspicious activity in that area between those dates to contact Gardaí in Milford on 9153060.
If anybody's seen anybody in and round, snooping around houses or in around the backs of houses especially, please contact us and make us aware. If anybody in that area has a doorbell camera or CCTV footage that could be made available to us, we're asking them to please get in touch also. The Garda Confidential line can be contacted on 1800 666 111. So the Garda in instances such as this usually go door to door in the area where the incident occurred, but just in case if they happen to miss somebody who has a doorbell camera they're not aware of.
It's brazen, isn't it, to go into the back of someone's house. Someone has, taken the time to put a lock on, which in and of itself, is more than many of us do. Cut that and pump the stuff out is really quite, remarkable. And they don't always do that. Sometimes they puncture the base of the tank as well, too. So we need to really look at different ways to try and protect this commodity. Sometimes 500, 1,000 euro worth of oil in the tank itself too, if it's damaged in the process. So there are things we can do, right?
Yeah, and especially at this time of year, most tanks are full or relatively full. People would have filled for the winter
and
time.
I really wouldn't be surprised. If I was in this business, I'd be keeping an eye on where yolks were going. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Because if you're going to risk if you're going to risk this and risk the time, you'd want to say, well, I don't want to be going there for 150 euro worth of oil, so I wouldn't be surprised if they're monitoring that stuff as well.
That's quite possible.
What could, exactly, and that's only me speculating, of course, not on Garda Síochána, what could we be doing better?
Yeah, well, there are preventative measures all of us can take to avoid the theft of home heating oil. So a lock, and as you said, in this instance, this homeowner did the right thing. They had the lock there, and unfortunately then the lock was cut, but a good quality closed shackle padlock fitted to the tank should be your starting point. Check your oil levels frequently. Try to arrange smaller but more frequent oil deliveries. Install security lights. This makes it a much harder target for thieves. They're less likely to enter any property that's well lit up. Place the tank as close to the house as regulations allow and in view of one or more windows, and this might make them consider the chance of being seen too high to risk. And ensure that the tank is not visible from the road to passing traffic. The position of the tank can have a significant effect on how a thief views how hard a target is. So again, this incorporates the same message of hiding the tank from public view. Plant shrubs or build a fence to screen tanks from public view.
What kind of shrubs? You in the past have says the pricklier the better.
The pricklier the better, I would say.
Prickly bushes is what
definitely.
You've said in the past.
Yeah, the harder to get through. Yeah. The type that cause the most pain when you try to go through them.
Every time you mention prickly bushes, the garden centres are inundated.
I'm doing them all a favour, yeah. Consider fitting an alarm system, and this will warn you if the oil level drops suddenly, and be vigilant following a delivery. And be aware also that thieves may return to steal replacement oil following an initial theft. Of course, they're aware then that you have to refill the tank again. So just in the days that follow, if this does happen to you, just keep an extra eye.
And we need to be the eyes and ears as well too, don't we?
Yeah, of course. Your neighbours, look, if you're living in an area and there's lots of houses around you, especially if there's elderly people, vulnerable people, keep an eye out for them. Watch out. If you ever see suspicious vehicles in your area, jot down the registration number. Any type of activity that seems untoward, please report it to Garda immediately.
And I'm not in the business of flogging security cameras, so don't even ask you where I get them, or go to your local electricity store or message. I don't mind. I got delivery of 2 security cameras, right? 2K, which is very high quality. Yeah. 88 euro for the 2 of them. They run off your Wi-Fi. They record 24/7, and if there is some interference, they've got 2 LED lights at the front, 2 white lights that flash. Right now, I defy anyone who's going around stealing oil to stick around when they see the lights going on this camera and they know they're being recorded.
And CCTV is a massive deterrent,
and these are really clear 2K colour images even at night time. Right, so the point is I'm not trying to sell them, but obviously why would I? There's nothing in for me. But they connect to your Wi-Fi, and they can be quite a distance from the house, and you can have them to alert you if there's someone there, but certainly to record, and these lights flash, and it's a deterrent. I don't think home security's ever been quite as affordable.
Exactly, because €88, for peace of mind.
For 2 cameras, right?
And as you say, you could be at work, you could get the alert on your phone 100%. To say somebody's at your property, and you can alert Garda then, even you're not at home.
If you've got a Fire Stick, you can watch them on your telly.
Yeah.
If you've got your Google streaming device, you can watch them on the telly if you so wish, or you can have a tablet on or whatever. And the point being is that the security measures have never been. Before it was wires all over the place. You drill a hole in your wall, you stick this a bracket on, and it's a magnet, and your camera goes to the magnet, and it's safe and secure, and you charge it once every 3 or 4 months, and that's it.
Yeah,
That's
it's never been easier really to have, security
and
cameras
that
around your home.
saves you 500 quid of oil and maybe a tank as well.
And it can give you great peace of mind too.
That's it.
Even if you're away on holidays, and you can check your phone and check around your property, it's great. It's
but the amount of cameras and alarms that get installed after an incident, which it's human nature, we'd do the same, wouldn't it? Yeah. Right, okay, so that's good advice from Gran. You just have to make it as difficult as possible, whether it's through shrubs or cameras or locks or whatever it might be. I just think last year or the year before, then we got a spell of tanks being drilled towards the bottom, and it's a double whammy then. Okay, thanks for that advice as always. Continuing with the appeals now, a road traffic collision being investigated in Stranraer.
Yes, so on Sunday the 1st of February, a 3-vehicle collision. This occurred at Dunwiley, Stranraer, so on the N13, so the main route into Stranraer after the Kilross junction there. Shortly after 1:45pm, so 2 vehicles were sitting stationary on the road. They were waiting for the vehicle in front of them to turn off onto a side road, and they were then struck from behind by a 3rd vehicle. So the driver of this 3rd vehicle left the scene on foot. He was described as being in his 20s and tall and slim. One of the passengers from one of the vehicles involved was taken to Letterkenny University Hospital to receive medical treatment for non-life-threatening injuries. We're appealing to any motorists who may have been in that area with a dash cam between 1:40pm and 2pm to make that footage available to us. If anybody was there, if they were sitting in a car waiting in the traffic, if they witnessed the collision, or if anybody can assist with any relevant information, we're asking them to contact Garda in Ballyshannon on 071 985 8530.
And that individual still being sought?
Yes.
Right,
yes,
so
yes.
people will have seen that. There's not obvious escape route, someone had to come and pick them up, or unless they lived locally. Okay, right.
And
so
it's believed he went in the direction of Tevick Moy, actually up a side road off
Right.
Down 30 up a side road. So even residents in that area, somebody in a house might have spotted this man on the road and give a more accurate description.
All right, people are going to have information. It's just hopefully it's forthcoming. Rightio, a stolen car has been recovered and progress in that investigation. What information do we have?
Yes, so on Tuesday the 27th of January, Gardaí were alerted to the fact a vehicle had been stolen across the border in Northern Ireland that day. So a coordinated response followed between Garda Síochána and the PSNI. So as part of that, extensive patrols were conducted by Ballybuffet Gardaí, Donegal Town Roads Policing Unit and the Armed Support Unit. They assisted also. The stolen vehicle in question was stopped later that day in the area of Spearstown, Donegal Town, by Gardaí following the deployment of the Stinger device. So the driver and 2 of the passengers in that vehicle were arrested and they were charged to appear in court in relation to a number of matters.
Now, we flagged it in advance, didn't we, that there would be extra resources distributed to enforce road safety over the St. Bridget's weekend, and we have some data in relation to that, Grania.
Yeah, well, I'm just going to go through a very small amount of the detections from the weekend because there were quite a few detections over the weekend. And the Enhanced Road Safety and Traffic Enforcement campaign took place over the St. Bridget's Bank Holiday weekend, so from 7am on Thursday past until 7am today, Tuesday 3rd of February. Over the course of those few days, 12 drivers across the county were arrested on suspicion of driving while under the influence of alcohol or drugs. So that was 5 for drink driving and 7 for drug driving. There was actually 17 arrests for driving under the influence from last Tuesday until this morning.
Wow.
But 12 of those were over the course of the bank holiday weekend. A number of drivers were arrested also over the weekend for dangerous driving offences. So I'll give an instance of one of those. Buncrana Roads Policing Unit, they were conducting patrols on the night of Sunday, February 1st. They observed 2 vehicles racing each other at high speeds on the 4-lane road on the N56 in Letterkenny. Both vehicles were stopped and the drivers were arrested and charged to appear in court. And this follows an arrest that was made on that same stretch of road. So that's between the Polestar roundabout and the Dry Arch roundabout there on the 4 lanes. So that detection was made a few days ago and a driver was detected travelling at 135 kilometres per hour. So we want to remind drivers the speed limit in that area between the Dry Arch roundabout and the Polestar is 60 kilometres per hour. And over the course of the weekend, fixed charge penalty notices for speeding offences were issued to a number of drivers on that same stretch of road, but also on roads in various parts of the county. A number of vehicles were seized over the course of the weekend right across Donegal for offences such as no insurance, no NCT, no tax and no driving licence. Look, we're continuing to urge drivers behave in a responsible manner. Please slow down. Don't drive while under the influence of alcohol or drugs. Don't use or hold your mobile phone while driving. And wear your seatbelt. were just, look, it was publicised, I suppose, over the weekend, and I did notice a number of people commenting on the Facebook posts over the weekend. Why is this only happening? Why are the guards only out because it's a bank holiday weekend? That isn't the case.
Yeah.
The guards are out on the roads 24/7, all day, every day they are. Really and truly, I suppose it's publicised more over the course of the bank holiday weekend because the roads are busier during the bank holiday weekend. It's a busy time in the roads.
Of course, yeah.
And we want to really emphasise the road safety point.
And I mean, it's only through interventions like that and potentially a great deal of good luck that we aren't talking about any fatalities, because unfortunately the driving behaviour is there. And the one thing also too, which I think is very important, is to understand, of course, the Garda have a critical role in policing the roads and what have you, but ultimately these are decisions that we are making ourselves, not necessarily us as individuals, but as a society, right? Yeah. We are deciding to do this stuff, and yes, of course, you'd want to guard on every corner to make sure it didn't happen, but this is our behaviour, and at what point are we going to take responsibility for what we contribute in this space, rather than always expecting other humans to tell us not to do it and to be there to slap us on our wrists? Do we need to call it out more? Do we need to highlight it more? You know what I mean? Like, it's not just the guard's responsibility. We have a responsibility here as well.
And just some of the very high speeds that were detected over the weekend out in the dual carriageway, especially outside Letterkenny, I mean, some of them beggar belief. And I don't think some of these drivers realise, if a tyre blew in your car, if an animal runs out in front of your car, any amount of things can happen. And if you're driving at excessive speeds like that, you haven't got a chance. And the drivers around you also, they don't have a chance also, So you need to keep that in mind. And we just are really, please do slow down. There was a serious amount of speeding detections and arrests because of the excessive speeds that people were driving at over the course of the weekend. So the message really, slow down.
And in case you need just to understand the impact that this might have, as you would know, there's a sister podcast to this show, and it's available on Spotify, iTunes, and wherever you get your podcasts. And it's a conversation with a very brave young woman called Bernadette, whose sister died in 2019 in a road traffic collision. The family accept that speed was involved, and that was the finding of the inquest into it as well. And it's Clarice who very sadly passed away. And in that podcast, Bernadette talks of having to tell Clarice's 3-year-old daughter that mommy's not coming home, and the impact it had on the twins' mom, who was at the scene. And Bernadette, travelling to the scene, was met by an ambulance and a hearse, and knew that the news couldn't be false, that her sister had been taken from her in the prime of her life. And she says and attributes it to speed. It was a high-powered vehicle, speed was involved, and it was only by the grace of God they were able to open the coffin for a wake, because the devastating injuries were from the neck down. And as tragic that loss is, that in a way was some sort of at least, if that makes sense. So speed kills, it destroys lives, it wipes lives out. And if you think Granny's just doing the same old stuff and sounds like your mum or dad or me, would you ever change the subject? Please listen to that podcast and listen to the reality of that, what can happen in that moment when you make a decision, and the ripple effect it has on your mum, on your sister, on your brother, on a wider community, and indeed potentially on your young children. So as I say, it's not just talk. That's a real story. And if you want to listen, you can, because I think and Bernadette speaks on this publicly in the past, but I think it's one of the first times she's sat down for a chat about it. And, 2019 is 2026 now, and it's like it happened yesterday. They're living that.
Oh, yeah. And sometimes, too, you just wish some of these drivers that are driving at such excessive speeds, or maybe driving while under the influence of alcohol or drugs, you just wish, and if you could, in an ideal world, if you could take them out to the scene of a fatal road traffic collision, let them see firsthand the devastation that is there. Let them accompany the guards to the house, and to break the news, to bring a family's world crashing down around them, to break that news to them. You just wish sometimes that they could see the reality of what can happen in that split second, A
former colleague of yours was, in a limited way, describing the scene of attending a multi-occupancy fatal road traffic collision, a high-speed road traffic collision. and even identifying people, if I could put it like that, I'll be as sensitive as I can, proved difficult because you've got a group of people in a small space, and you can imagine no one wants to be a part of that. No one wants to put anyone through that, and this is why we talk about this. It's try and stop it happening, because a lot of this, 99% of this, is avoidable, especially when it's driver misbehaviour, if I could put it to you like that.
Could
right.
I just say
of
one
course,
more thing,
whatever you want, because it's an incredibly important issue.
I haven't got this in the notes now, but it just came into my head. One of the boys on the Roads Policing Unit recently asked me, could I highlight something on here? And it is quite important as well, so I'll just mention it briefly before we move on. He asked me to highlight, he said that this is quite a common occurrence, and I have seen it myself over the years also. At the scene of a road traffic collision, a serious road traffic collision, a fatal road traffic collision, regardless what type of collision it is, there are a certain amount of drivers that will slow down and take their phones out as they pass the scene of a collision. They don't know if somebody's passed away. You know, they don't know what the situation is. Curiosity, I suppose, just curiosity maybe. And, you know, they slow down and they start videoing or start photographing. Next thing, that's up online. The family of that person that has been involved in that collision maybe hasn't even been notified yet that this collision has taken place. It could be a fatality, you know. And next thing, if this is online, that's extremely, you know, it's so traumatic for a family to find out in that way, and it's just so disrespectful, you know. And you know, give people a bit of dignity at the scene of a collision. You know, that could be a member of your family. You would not appreciate someone else going along and videoing a scene. And they were at a collision recently, and I think they issued, I don't know, was it 2 or 3? They stopped the drivers involved. One of the Roads Policing Unit stood at the side of the road to watch who was at this behaviour and videoing and photographing, you know, while they were in control of their car, and they were issued with fines on the spot for holding, you know, using the mobile phone while driving. So we just ask people, please be respectful, be mindful.
Courtesy, my word, put yourself in that position and give people dignity and give people the concentration to do the life-saving work that they're actually doing. Scam alert.
Yeah, we mention these regularly. This seems to be a new one. They're impersonating the Garda again, and we're warning the public in relation to recent attempted fraud incidents. So the scammer or scammers are once again impersonating members of Garda Síochána. They'll call you, it's a scam call, and the caller will say they're calling from Garda Síochána, and they state that there's an active warrant in existence for you and that you're going to be arrested at your home if money isn't paid. So we're just advising the public, look, the Gardaí do not do this. This doesn't happen. So if you've been the victim of this or any other type of scam, please contact your bank, number one, make them aware if you've provided any financial details, and also please report the matter to us.
Yep, and inform people who may not be as tech savvy. You might be listening to that and go, well, who would fall for that? We do all the time, and it's about shock and awe, and that's how they get you. Okay. And crime prevention talk upcoming. What's coming up?
Yes, a crime prevention talk. So this will be given by the Divisional Crime Prevention Officer, Sergeant Fergus McGrory. So this is on Thursday, the 5th of February at 7:30 p.m. in Termon in the clubhouse, the GA clubhouse there. And everybody is more than welcome to come along to that if they wish to do so.
Garda Grania, thank you so much for that. I really do appreciate your time. Community Garda information, that is it for Tuesday the 3rd of February. It's back for you after the 10 o'clock news next Tuesday. If you missed any of it, by the way, it'll be available for you to watch it back as a video on our socials and on Garda Síochána socials, around about 12 o'clock. But also it's on the podcast, of course, just in case you missed anything.
New Nissan, new deal, new you. Get a €4,000 finance contribution or trade-in booster at iMotors. It's simple. If your car is worth €26,000, with Nissan 4K, it's now worth €30,000. The 261 Nissan is ready for immediate delivery. Don't wait, don't settle. Visit imotors.ie. Terms and conditions apply.
iMotors, fearless generation.
If you're getting new furniture or it's time for a change, pay a visit to McGinley's Furniture in Letterkenny. There you'll find a selection of suites, beds and bedroom furniture, dining room and occasional furniture. You'll be amazed by the selection and pleasantly surprised by the prices. At McGinley's Furniture, Portlink Business Park, Port Road, Letterkenny. And online at mcginleysfurniture.com.
We all bring a different kind of energy to our home energy upgrades. Will it not cost a fortune energy? That's why SSE Electricity brings up to €37,000 in SEAI grants deducted up front. And as Ireland's leading one-stop shop, we manage it all, and we can help you access the Home Energy Upgrade Loan Scheme too. Book your free consultation today. SSE Electricity, a different kind of energy. Grants offered are provided by the Government of Ireland through the Sustainable Energy Authority of Ireland. Terms and conditions apply to the Home Energy Upgrade Loan.
Are you going through intense treatment, alopecia or hair thinning? At the Donegal Wig Centre and Patrick O'Day Hairdressing, we have over 30 years experience helping people feel themselves again. In our private consultation suite, we have the largest selection of beautiful wigs and hairpieces in the Northwest, and we're HSE approved. To arrange your private consultation at the Donegal Wig Centre in Letterkenny, call us today on 91254776.
All you need to make your house a home at Patterson's The Halliford. From garden furniture to kitchens, sofas and dining sets, all under one roof. Need a new mattress? Why not visit our sleep centre on the first floor? With a large range of quality beds and mattresses in stock and ready for collection or delivery. Relax in our coffee shop serving hot lunches daily. Open Monday to Saturday, 9 a.m. to 5:30 p.m. Patterson's Kitchens and Interiors, The Halliford.
Highland Radio weather updates with McElhenney's. Looking for the perfect outfit for an upcoming event? We have new occasion wear styles arriving every week. Visit us in Ballybuffet or shop online at mcelhenneys.com.
All right, cloudy with scattered outbreaks of rain and drizzle. Highest temperatures of 3 to 6 degrees. Moderate to fresh easterly winds will ease through the day. During Community Garda information there, I mentioned the Greg Hughes podcast, which we have episodes released every Friday. There's 4 or 5 or 6 up there now at the moment. But yesterday we released a bonus podcast. It was an interview during my time at Northwest Radio, where I interviewed former TD Jim White, of course, of the White Hotel Group. And it was sort of talking about his live kind of a podcast, but really interesting because, as I say, it was recorded in 2002. I was much younger then. And it was just post the general election where he missed out. And it was just when Enda Kenny was coming onto the scene. And we discuss how he got into business first in terms of he got involved in the grocery business. He got involved in politics with Fine Gael because there was a bit of competition between him and Councillor Sean McAniff in business. And he thought, right, well, I'll have a go at politics. And Sean McAniff was a member of Fianna Fáil. So he says, well, what other parties are available? And ended up with Fine Gael. He also had big issues at that time coming up to that election with the then deputy, or soon-to-be deputy, Thomas Gilday, and some comments that were made about a colleague of his. So he talks about politics at that time, but also about business, how the county was booming, and the amount of trade from Northern Ireland and the capacity in Donegal hotels, and also then, as I say, his views on the national political scene, just as a fresh face Enda Kenny was arriving on the scene, believe it or not. So it is, for those of you interested in Just Chat, you'll enjoy it, but also for those of you interested in politics and politics of a time, it really is, I think anyway, a great insight. So that's on our website, or you can search it out, the Greg Hughes podcast on Spotify, particularly, and I think soon iTunes. If it's not there, you'll find the podcast on iTunes. It's everywhere, really, to be honest with you. But as I say, just it's about an hour, and it's just a real interesting insight into politics, not only in Donegal at the time, but nationally, but also business and the hotel industry and all that kind of stuff. Anyway, there's another episode being released for you on Friday. I'm recording one this evening with a very interesting gentleman who many of you will know. I'll tell you more about that. And it's not about famous people. For me, regular people are the famous people, but every person has a remarkable story, and that's what we try and tease them out. I would like to say I was waiting on this, but I wasn't. The Garda said to plant something prickly around the old tank, right? Okay, so that makes sense, doesn't it? Keep the bad people away. But this person's an oil man. And he says, you didn't think about me trying to get into the oil tank. All right, well, we could leave a path for you. Right, okay, I understand where you're coming from. On Epstein, do you really think Epstein committed suicide? Hardly. He knew too much about people in power. No, I don't, if the truth is told. Hi, Greg. Where did you buy your cameras? They sound brilliant. Thanks. It's a mixture, right? I do like to shop local. But there's certain cameras at a certain price point that have a certain functionality that I do get online. If you DM me on Facebook, I'll tell you where they are or link them to you. because I think it's just an affordable way for people to get that security and peace of mind. And you know what? It's sitting on the telly watching cameras, your own cameras. Nothing happens, but it's quite interesting. Right, that's where we leave it on the show for this Tuesday. Thank you so much for all of the comments. In their hundreds, no joke. We'll get to any we missed out tomorrow. But stay safe and stay tuned, because Anne-Marie McDevitt's in for John Bresson all of this week around the North.